More trouble for R&B singer Trey Songz. Police arrested him yesterday for the second time this month. Songz, whose legal name is Tremaine Neverson, accused of damaging property, including $1,500 worth of hookahs inside of a lounge on East 34th Street. And earlier this month, Songz was accused of assaulting a nightclub employee in Times Square. The singer was arraigned in criminal court on both complaints and then released.
I'll let you know.
I'm saying under what charges?
I'll let you know.
You have to read him his rights and let him know what he's under arrest.
We're not knowing.
Sir, can I not pay? What?
You have to.
All right, bring him out.
I didn't touch anybody.
Know the law first before you talk about it.
I do know the.
At what point does a headline stop feeling shocking and start feeling familiar? Because when the name Trey Songz pops up in the news today, it's rarely tied to a chart-topping single, a sold-out tour, or a surprise album drop. Instead, it's often followed by words like arrest, charges, or court appearance. And once again, Trey Songz is back in the headlines, not for music, but for alleged legal trouble. According to court records, the R&B singer was recently arrested following an incident at a New York nightclub, where he is alleged to have punched a club employee after being told the venue was closing in the early morning hours. Days later, he appeared in court facing an assault charge. On top of that, he was also arraigned on a separate charge of criminal mischief connected to a different, unrelated incident at another New York location. His legal team insists he is cooperating fully and maintains that the facts will ultimately work in his favor. And as always, it's important to say this clearly. These are allegations, not convictions. But here's where the story gets complicated and why so many people are paying attention. This isn't happening in a vacuum. For years now, Trey Songz' public image has been shaped as much by legal headlines as by his music. Each new allegation doesn't just stand on its own. It reopens old conversations, past cases, and lingering questions about accountability, celebrity, and perception. So today, we're not here to rush to judgment, and we're not here to play defense either. We're here to lay out the facts, separate allegations from outcomes, and examine how repeated controversies, proven or not, can slowly reshape a career and a legacy. Because in the court of public opinion, perception often moves faster than the legal system ever could. If you follow real balanced breakdowns of major entertainment stories, take a moment to subscribe to Taspectrum West TV. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer picture of what happened, why it matters, and the bigger question looming over this entire situation. Is Trey Songz being unfairly targeted, or are these the consequences of patterns that keep repeating?
I'm saying under what charges?
I'll let you know.
You have to read him his rights and let him know what he's under arrest.
We're not knowing.
Sir, can I not pay? What?
You have to.
All right, bring him out.
I didn't touch anybody.
You have to. Hold up. You just say he
Listen.
Listen to me. I need you to be away from me. You're going to be OJ if you come near me. You've already arrested him. I will let you know what it is.
stand right for his safety. I need to witness what's going on.
I'm with it too. I'm with it too.
Brother.
Come on.
Mama.
Y'all see the footage. How y'all arresting him?
I understand. Miss Officer.
I didn't call.
Can somebody read him his rights and let him know
I
what's
am
going
asking.
on?
They just told me I
I'm
could
not asking him
pay.
any questions.
They
But
told
you
me I
placed him
could
under
pay.
arrest. You just told him he's under arrest. Without
Can I
reading him
not
his
pay?
rights.
Look, that opportunity is gone now. That opportunity is gone now.
Brother.
You just told him he's under arrest without reading him his rights.
Know the law first before you talk about it.
I do know the law.
Okay.
Look, it's the owner right here, Lieutenant. Look.
Officer.
Look. You don't want him to arrest. It's the owner. You said the owner wanted him to arrest.
Don't do that. You just spoke to me, right?
Okay, you don't want him arrested, bro.
I'm not changing
Don't
it.
let her coerce you, though. This is unlawful.
Can I not speak to y'all?
This is unlawful. Don't let her do it, bro. Don't let her do it.
Brother, I was
Tell him
assaulted.
you don't want him arrested.
The owner's right here saying he don't
He doesn't want him arrested.
Hey, bro, tell him I didn't do nothing to nobody, bro.
This is unlawful.
I didn't do
This is
nothing to
unlawful.
nobody. They assaulted me, miss. Miss,
This is unlawful.
You don't like how people talk to you?
miss, they assaulted me.
The owner literally
This is
came out.
unlawful.
The owner came out saying he don't want him arrested. Why you arresting him? Nobody pressing charges.
Bro, can we, are you mad at me? What did I do?
Just have a seat. Watch him.
You tell him what he's under arrest for. You said he's under arrest.
The situation that placed Trey Songz back in legal headlines reportedly began in the early morning hours at Drama nightclub in New York City, a setting that has become all too familiar in celebrity legal cases. According to court documents and law enforcement accounts, Trey Songz was inside the venue socializing and partying when staff began preparing to close for the night. At approximately 4:25 a.m., a nightclub employee allegedly approached the singer to inform him that the venue was shutting down and that it was time to leave. What happened next is where accounts sharply diverge and where the word allegedly becomes critical. Prosecutors claim that the interaction escalated quickly, resulting in Trey Songz allegedly striking the employee in the face. Law enforcement was called to the scene and the situation ultimately led to Trey Songz being taken into custody. The alleged punch is the foundation of the assault charge he now faces. From a legal standpoint, moments like these often come down to conflicting narratives. Nightclub environments are loud, chaotic, and crowded. Alcohol, heightened emotions, security intervention, and celebrity entourages can all contribute to misunderstandings that escalate rapidly. Still, prosecutors argue that the employee was simply performing their job, while the defense suggests the confrontation was provoked and instigated, a claim echoed later by Trey Songz' legal team. What makes this incident particularly notable is not just the allegation itself, but how quickly it moved into the court system. Within days, Trey Songz was formally charged and brought before a judge. He was later released under court supervision, with reports indicating that a temporary protection order was also issued, a standard legal measure in cases involving alleged physical altercations, not a determination of guilt. It's important to pause here and clarify something that often gets lost online. Being charged is not the same as being convicted. Charges reflect what prosecutors believe they can argue based on available evidence. Convictions require proof beyond a reasonable doubt. At this stage, the legal process is still unfolding. However, public reaction doesn't wait for verdicts. Once the words arrest and assault attach themselves to a headline, the narrative takes on a life of its own. And for Trey Songz, that narrative didn't just start at Drama Nightclub. It tapped into a much longer and more complicated public history.
Which R&B singer was arrested for allegedly punching a Manhattan nightclub employee? Kelly.
Actually, it's me.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Hey, I'll take it. Trey Songz.
My bad, Mike. It was you, not Kelly. Yes, it was Trey Songz. Talk to me about where this took place and what happened.
All right, so this took place in New York, and Trey is crazy, man. So this took place in New York. He had an incident at a club and at a hookah lounge. Basically, he assaulted people. I think it was like damages of $1,500 that he had messed up, which was hookah equipment and DJ equipment.
Following the nightclub incident, Trey Songz appeared in court for an arraignment, a procedural but critical moment in any criminal case. This is where formal charges are read, a defendant enters a plea, and the court determines what conditions, if any, will apply while the case is pending. According to public records, Trey Songz was officially charged in connection with the alleged assault at Drama Nightclub and brought before a judge days after the incident. During the hearing, Trey Songz was released under court supervision, meaning he was not held in custody but is required to comply with specific legal conditions while the case proceeds. This outcome is fairly common in cases involving non-felony allegations, particularly when the defendant has legal representation and no immediate flight risk. Still, release does not mean the case is minor. It simply means the court believes it can move forward without detention. One detail that quickly caught public attention was the reported order of protection connected to the case. In situations involving alleged physical altercations, judges often issue temporary protection orders as a preventative measure. These orders are not findings of guilt. Instead, they are designed to limit contact between parties while facts are investigated and to reduce the risk of further conflict. However, in the public eye, the presence of a protection order can amplify the seriousness of the headline, even when it is procedural rather than punitive. Complicating matters further, Trey Songz was also arraigned on a separate charge of criminal mischief related to an unrelated incident at another New York location later that same morning. Prosecutors made it clear that the two cases are distinct, involving different circumstances and allegations. Legally, this distinction matters. Publicly, however, the timing fueled speculation and intensified scrutiny. Criminal mischief charges typically involve alleged property damage rather than physical harm, but the severity can vary depending on the extent of the damage and the circumstances surrounding the incident. At this stage, few details have been publicly disclosed, reinforcing the importance of withholding judgment until more information emerges. What stands out most about this court appearance isn't just the charges themselves, it's how quickly public narratives form once legal terminology enters the conversation. Words like assault, arraignment, and court supervision often sound definitive, even though they represent early steps in a process that can take months to resolve. As of now, Trey Songz has not been convicted of any crime related to these allegations. His legal team has emphasized cooperation and confidence in the facts, but legally and reputationally, the road ahead is anything but simple. While the alleged altercation at Drama nightclub alone would have been enough to dominate headlines, the situation surrounding Trey Songz became more complex when reports revealed a second unrelated incident that occurred later the same morning. According to court records, Trey Songz was also arraigned on a criminal mischief charge connected to an incident at Mirror nightclub, another New York venue. Prosecutors emphasized that this case is separate from the alleged assault, involving different circumstances, locations, and claims. Legally speaking, the distinction matters. Courts evaluate each case on its own merits, evidence, and testimony. An unrelated incident does not automatically strengthen another case in a courtroom. However, in the court of public opinion, multiple allegations surfacing within the same time frame often get bundled together, forming a single narrative, whether that narrative is accurate or fair. Details surrounding the Mirror nightclub incident remain limited, which is typical at this early stage. Criminal mischief charges generally involve allegations of property damage rather than harm to an individual. The degree of the charge often depends on the extent of the alleged damage and whether it was intentional. Without full disclosure from prosecutors, it would be irresponsible to speculate beyond what has been formally stated. What can be said, though, is that the timing of this charge significantly amplified media attention. From a reputational standpoint, this second case reinforces a pattern that critics frequently point to when discussing Trey Songz' public image. Even when incidents are legally separate, repetition becomes the headline. The nuance of unrelated tends to disappear once stories circulate on social media, where context is often sacrificed for speed and engagement. This is also where celebrity status plays a double-edged role. High-profile figures attract heightened scrutiny, and routine legal procedures can quickly become viral talking points. At the same time, fame can sometimes create environments where boundaries blur, security steps in, and situations escalate faster than they would for an average person. Neither reality cancels the other out, and both can exist simultaneously. The Mirror nightclub charge also raises broader questions about accountability and environment. Are these incidents the result of chaotic nightlife settings that celebrities routinely find themselves in, or are they symptoms of avoidable situations that keep repeating? That question doesn't have a simple answer, but it looms over every update in this case. At this stage, Trey Songz' legal team has not publicly addressed the Mirror incident in detail, choosing instead to focus on cooperation and confidence in the overall legal process. As with the assault allegation, the criminal mischief charge remains unresolved and unproven. Still, when multiple court appearances stack up in a short period of time, they don't just complicate legal calendars, they complicate public perception. And for Trey Songz, perception has become one of the most challenging aspects of this entire situation. To understand why the current allegations against Trey Songz sparked such an intense reaction, you have to rewind the clock. Not to relitigate the past, but to understand how history shapes perception regardless of legal outcomes. Because when a public figure faces repeated controversy, even unproven claims begin to stack in the public consciousness. One of the earliest widely reported incidents dates back to 2016 during a concert in Detroit. Trey Songz was arrested following a confrontation involving venue security and police officers. Reports at the time stated that the situation escalated after he refused to leave the stage when instructed. The case ultimately resulted in a plea deal, probation, and mandated anger management. Legally, the matter was resolved. Publicly, however, it planted the first seed of a narrative that would resurface years later. Then came 2018, when Trey Songz turned himself in following allegations of domestic violence stemming from an incident at a party. He denied the claims, and the case was eventually resolved without a conviction. Still, the damage wasn't measured by verdicts, it was measured by headlines. Once an accusation enters the news cycle, it becomes part of an artist's searchable history, regardless of how the case ends. Over the years that followed, Trey Songz faced multiple civil lawsuits, including allegations of sexual misconduct. It's critical to distinguish here. Civil lawsuits are not criminal cases. They operate under a lower burden of proof and often end in dismissals, settlements, or procedural closures. Some of the cases involving Trey Songz were dismissed outright. Others were reportedly settled or impacted by statutes of limitation. None resulted in criminal convictions, but collectively, they added weight to an already forming narrative. There have also been reports of a significant civil judgment tied to an alleged assault case, a ruling that Trey Songz' legal team has actively contested. Again, the legal fight continues, and outcomes remain unresolved. But in the public arena, nuance fades quickly. What remains is repetition. This is where things get uncomfortable but necessary to discuss. The public doesn't experience legal cases the way courts do. Courts isolate facts. The public aggregates stories. Over time, individual incidents blur together, forming a generalized impression that becomes difficult to shake. That doesn't mean allegations equal guilt. It means patterns influence belief, even when cases differ in facts, timelines, and outcomes. For Trey Songz, this accumulation has turned every new allegation into a referendum on his character, rather than an isolated event evaluated on its own merits. And this is why reactions to the current charges feel amplified. Many aren't responding to what happened at Drama Nightclub alone. They're responding to everything they remember before it. Whether fair or not, Trey Songz is no longer judged in a vacuum. The result is a reputation caught between legal reality and public memory. Even if he prevails in court, the challenge remains the same. How do you outrun a narrative that keeps catching up? There was a time when the name Trey Songz immediately sparked conversations about music. Hits, hooks, and late-night radio staples defined his presence in R&B. Songs like Say Ah, Neighbors Know My Name, and Bottoms Up once dominated playlists and club rotations. But today, when his name trends, it's rarely because of a release date or a chart position. Instead, it's tied to courtrooms and controversy. That shift didn't happen overnight. It happened gradually and quietly as legal headlines began to outweigh musical ones. Even when Trey Songz did release new material, it struggled to cut through the noise. His recent collaboration with Ray J, titled Lit Again, barely registered with the broader public. Some fans remember it for an entertaining performance moment rather than the song itself, which says a lot about where attention has drifted. In the music industry, visibility is currency. Artists don't just compete with each other, they compete with narratives. And controversy, whether proven or not, often becomes the dominant storyline. For Trey Songz, each new allegation has made it harder for audiences to focus on the art alone. Radio programmers, streaming playlists, brands, and collaborators all operate in risk-averse environments. When an artist's name is consistently attached to legal uncertainty, support quietly pulls back. What makes this situation especially frustrating for longtime fans is that Trey Songz' talent has never been the issue. Even critics of his behavior often acknowledge his vocal ability and musical influence. The problem isn't capability, it's momentum. Music thrives on continuity, consistent releases, positive press, and forward motion. Legal drama interrupts all of that. There's also the issue of silence. In between controversies, Trey Songz hasn't flooded the market with projects that force the conversation back to music. No major album rollout, no dominant single, no undeniable moment that demands attention. In that absence, controversy fills the vacuum. This creates a vicious cycle. Less music leads to more focus on personal issues. More focus on personal issues makes it harder to promote music. Over time, the public subconsciously reclassifies the artist, not as an active musician but as a recurring headline. The conversation then shifts from what's his next song to what's he in trouble for now. That's a dangerous place for any artist to be, especially one whose legacy is still being written. And this is where the criticism hits hardest. Not because Trey Songz is untalented, but because many believe his career deserved a different trajectory. Instead of celebrating evolution, the audience is stuck revisiting controversy. Instead of discussing growth, they're debating accountability. Whether fair or not, this moment reflects how quickly the industry moves on and how unforgiving it can be when an artist's narrative drifts too far from the music itself. So where does all of this leave Trey Songz? Right now, the legal process is still unfolding. Allegations have been made, charges have been filed, and his legal team maintains that he is cooperating fully and confident the facts will speak for themselves. And that's how it should be. The courts decide guilt or innocence, not headlines, not social media, and not speculation. But outside the courtroom, the reality is different. Reputation doesn't wait for verdicts. Every allegation, whether proven or not, leaves a mark. And for an artist as talented as Trey Songz, the biggest question may not be what happens legally, but whether he can ever shift the conversation back to the music. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Trey Songz is being unfairly targeted because of his celebrity status? Or do you believe these situations point to patterns that could have been avoided? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep it respectful, factual, and real. If you appreciate balanced breakdowns without bias or clickbait, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Taspectrum West TV, where we break down the stories behind the headlines.